my wife said, we wanted to kind of start something and build something, and so we got going on some ideas, and then my father-in-law, had this property, and so me and my father-in-law actually bought it from his sisters, and then we became partners, and so we're sort of 50-50 partners in the endeavor, and that's been really fun and interesting. He's a great partner though, because like he knows how to fix excavators, and he's got a tractor, and he's also super laid back. He's like, whatever you want to do, however it'll work. But yeah, I mean, when you're just starting out, you kind of gotta do everything, and learn how to do everything, or lean on your family and friends. So, had my little buddy comes out there. I got 5 minutes.
This is Jeremy. Welcome to Price Points. With me, I've got
Max.
Max is with me to do an introduction. This episode actually sat down and talked to Hartwell Carson with Cold Springs Basecamp out in North Carolina. They're located near DuPont State Park in Asheville, North Carolina. If you listen to my episode with Megan with Smoky Mountain Soul Adventures, Max, did you listen to that one?
No.
You watched it on YouTube, right?
No.
What? Oh, goodness. Anyway, well, if you haven't, go back and check it out. It's a great episode. Megan does tours throughout really the North Carolina side of the Smoky Mountains, but particularly around Pisgah National Forest, which is a great spot. Or should I say several great spots. It's a huge, huge area. Anyway, in that episode, I mentioned that Max, along with my sister and nephew Henry, stayed at Cold Springs Basecamp. So it's kind of neat bringing it in as a family affair since Hartwell does that. I figured we'd bring Max in. Max, what was your experience there?
I really liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Should we go back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like it.
So in the interview, we talk about really how they got Cold Springs started. It's really neat in the fact that they talk about the family lineage of the property. And we also touch on some places, or not necessarily some places, but some other activities that Hartwell does that I think you'll find very, very neat. And it's just an awesome interview all around. So stay tuned. Here it is with Hartwell. Enjoy. Thanks for joining us on Price Points. Looks like you got great weather in North Carolina right now.
Oh man, I'm not a fool. The Keys are where it's at. If you can get down to the Keys in January, these palm trees are not part of our campground. But I got an opportunity. Actually, my coworker's wife's dad has a house in the Keys, so he's letting us use it for a couple of weeks, and we are thoroughly enjoying it down here.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, man, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Cold Springs Basecamp, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I work as the French Broad River Keeper in my day job for an organization called Mountain True, and so we're kind of all over Western North Carolina protecting our mountains, rivers, and forests. Like I focus on water quality work. So, but have been an avid outdoorsman forever. Love camping. Love paddle on down rivers, mountain biking. So that's kind of the world I came from, and so. I don't, in the pandemic did weird things for a lot of people. And for me, it didn't do weird things, but it made me really want to like build something and start a business. And, some people baked bread, and I decided I should start a campground. So that was me and my wife. We spent months looking around, if not years, looking around Western North Carolina for the perfect piece of land. And interestingly enough, it was right under our nose. Her dad and his sisters owned a old family piece of property. So that the property that is now our campground was the overnight campground spot for my wife's granddad's summer camp, which was about 2 miles away. They would ride horses over from the old Camp Windywood, and then they would camp out there. And and they would camp. They had the old shelters, which you saw when you were there. That's where the summer camp kids would just sleep on the floor there, these open air shelters. And so my wife's dad had said, you should come check out this property. And I actually looked at it once in the summer, and at the time it had been so neglected and overgrown that it just really didn't. It was not that appealing. And then he kept saying, "Go check it out." And so I went back in the winter, looked at it. It's just a beautiful piece of property. It's 38 acres. It has some nice bottom land with a creek through it, and then it has some steep areas with cliffs and a waterfall. And once we got in there and cleared it out, it became clear that it was really like a beautiful, perfect piece of property situated amongst a ton of other, great outdoor recreation activities. So we started small, and then we're kind of growing from there.
Yeah, and it is great. It's interesting because I've backpacked and camped for several years. My son Max has been on a few camping trips. You know, sometimes I have to drag him out to go hiking with me. Sometimes he wants to hike. It's one of those things. But when I went back in the fall, it was with one of my sister Athena, and her son, young son, Henry. And for Athena, I don't think she's camped in years. Henry never had. This was his first time. And
Cool.
it was a great experience for all four of us. Curious, when looking at the campsite, like what was your all's mindset, or was there a mindset to make sure you're catering to both, an outdoor enthusiast, I guess you could say like myself, Max, and then those new to camping like my sister and my nephew.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, so I'm 44 now. I got two kids. I mean, I started out, I was a backpacker, lightweight. I had a thermarest that was three-quarter length to like save weight. One of those like deep in the woods solo kind of adventures.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, backpacking is hard and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of equipment. So then I went canoe camping. I was like, all right, we're gonna canoe camp, put all our gear in the canoe, paddle down a river, find a camp spot. And that's awesome. Still love canoe camping. But the ease, the camping is a wonderful activity that everyone should do, but it is a lot of work. There's no way around. Like every time I'm packing to go camping, packing the food and the sleeping bag and the thermarest and the all the the equipment that it takes to go camping. I'm like, is this worth it? And then I get out there and it always is. I'm like, this was awesome. But if you can make that task a lot easier, which is what we've tried to do at Cold Spring Basecamp. Basically we have these cabins. They have beds, they have mattresses, they have stoves, pots, pans, lights, solar powered charger for your phone. I mean, really, you just got to show up with a sleeping bag and some food. And man, that is really nice when you can show up, and if it rains, who cares? You got a roof over your head. And so we wanted to make that an easy experience for folks that are like, I want to go camping, but I don't have a $400 tent and a camp stove and the pots and the pan, all that stuff that is just hundreds of dollars worth of equipment. But I still love tent camping too. So we have a couple tent camp spots, and then we're in the process of adding some stuff that'll make it even easier for camping. So building some stuff, with indoor plumbing, and so then we'll kind of have tiers for everybody. If you want to show up and have a flush toilet and a shower, or if you want to show up in our open air cabins, or if you want to sleep in a tent, that'll be a little bit for everybody for whatever experience you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think I saw on Instagram tree houses. Is that in
Yeah,
the
yeah. So
works? Okay.
yeah, so sorry, there's a truck going by, but it's way nicer out here on the porch. So you get birds and you might even get a boat. We're kind of on the canal here too. So
Nice.
yeah, so really the original vision for this was tree houses. I've always loved tree houses. My daughter asked me like 10 years ago to build her a tree house, and she still complains because I put up one 2x6 in our tree in the front yard, and that's as far as I made it. And she's like, Dad, when are you going to build me a tree house? So my vision was like a cool tree houses in the woods, and this property is situated really nice for that. It's got views and some hills, and so that's really where I wanted to go. But then we showed up and we already had these cabins. They were super dilapidated and run down, but we brought in our contractor buddy, and I assumed he would look at our cabins and say, you got to tear them down right away. Like these are totally, and my plan was we'll just salvage the wood and we'll do something cool with the wood. And he looked at them to his credit and said, "No, we can save these." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah, I got a plan." And so he brought his guys out there to do the work, and his guys showed up and were like, "We can't save these. We got to tear it down." He said, "No, we can save them." They basically propped the cabins up by the corners. They tore the floor out. They tore the walls off. It was basically just a roof. They rebuilt the floor, rebuilt the walls, put the old wood back on, and were able to save the cabins. And so we started with the cabins because that's what we had, and that was sort of the easy first step. And then in the meantime, we've been working towards adding some tree houses. So we've started on the tree house, which is super cool. Super fun to watch them do that. We have a treehouse builder, and this is a real treehouse. So in the trees, he's put the tabs in, he's put the beams in the tree, and watching him do all this is fascinating because he's doing it mostly by himself. He has pulleys where he lifts the beams up off the ground, and then he slides them over on ropes, and then he pulls them up and puts them into place. And so that's happening right now, and we hope that that'll be done and open by the spring, and folks can come, and that'll be air conditioner, heater, indoor plumbing, so kind of all the amenities. There's folks like my parents, they love the outdoors, but they want all the amenities that come from home. And so this is for folks like that want nice amenities, and then we'll have other options for folks that want to rough it a little bit more.
Wow. No, that's great. That's great. And I remember seeing, when we came in, I remember seeing some of the campsites, and we explored, some of the area, hiked up to the cliff where, you can get a waterfall if it's raining. Unfortunately, during the fall, anyone who has lived here, in the Appalachians, understands that we went through a drought. So we still enjoyed the hike, and then hiked up a little bit up the road as well to see, like, some could tell that you all were doing some work, and there were some things that are in progress. And it's awesome that you guys are doing that. And these are legit, real tree houses.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I,
there's this thing you probably see, like online, everyone's like, come stay at our treehouse. And I'm like, that is a house on stilts that is 4 feet off the ground. Like, it's not a treehouse.
yeah.
Like, it's got to be at least tall. Ideally, it needs to be in the trees.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've seen this trend, online, and I'm like, our builder was like, let's build it on stilts. I'm like, no, let's build a real treehouse. And so it's a little risky because it's like, how the trees will react and what'll happen, and but it's cool.
Yeah.
I hope
I
I
have
hope I don't regret it later, but right now it's really cool.
I have a friend of mine. She's a welder, and years ago, someone had hired her to do tree houses, and that's essentially what it was. They were building houses on stilts, and they wanted her to weld something that looked like a tree in the middle of it to make it look like it was a tree house, and it looked cool. And joked with her about that being false advertising and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's awesome.
I
And
mean, I get why people do it because we had to spend a lot of money on engineering. There's a lot that goes into making sure that it's done right. And you put these really fancy, they call them tabs, but they're big, just sort of metal brackets that go in the tree, and the beams sit on top of those. And what that allows is a little bit of movement because the trees move, and it allows that to move without the whole structure. The trees are sort of, tied together. There's a lot that goes into it, when you show up that you don't know. And I didn't know either, but I'm learning a lot for sure.
well, that's awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing those when they get fully built out. That'd be great. Um,
Yeah, and we have a bunch of other exciting projects. So we're working on a bathhouse right now. I was just emailing this morning with
wow.
with the guys to kind of finalize the design for the bathhouse, and so that'll be sort of two stalls. I mean, stalls is not a real sexy word for bathhouse, but you'll go in and you'll have a sink, a toilet, and a shower, and so that'll all be your own unit. And then we'll have two outdoor showers and an outdoor sink for like doing dishes and filling up water. And so I love a good outdoor shower. The treehouse will have an outdoor shower, bathhouse, a couple outdoor showers, but you'll also be able to go in and have your own space. Like, I don't know that anybody loves like a bathhouse, a traditional bath. Like you go in and you're brushing your teeth and there's like this dude using the bathroom next to you. Like, so you this will be your own sort of dedicated space and it's going to be nice. I went to a kind of a glamping place in West Texas, and it's kind of where I got this idea. You go in, you lock the door behind you. It's very nice and well done, and you have your own space, and so that'll be a real nice amenity for folks. Right now we have outhouses, as you saw, which are really cool. We took an old portage on and cut it apart and built this cool old rustic structure around it, and
Yep.
those are great. But the bathhouse will be a step up for sure.
No, it was neat. Athena and I got a kick out of that those the actual outhouse that had that aesthetic on the outside. And to talking about bathhouses, you're right. You've either got people who have not experienced them and may have some kind of Roman Empire-esque kind of idea of what it is, and then people like us. I remember for years, right after Christmas, it was the day after Christmas, and I would stay there for several days with some friends at Fall Creek Falls, at State Park here in Tennessee. And we loved staying there around that time of year because no one was there. So we could, really car tent, park there, set up a tent, and we would always park right across from the bathhouse. And we would always joke for that reason right there, what you just said. Hey, at least if we're brushing our teeth and someone's using the bathroom, we know who it is. It's one of us
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
there. So,
yeah.
um,
I just went on this big road trip with my 5-year-old and we saw a lot of bathhouses and they are not all created equal. There's some some real dumpy bathhouses out there. So we're aiming for really like a kind of high quality product that my standard is something that my wife will want to go use and not be scared of. So
that's a good like goal, and definitely a goal with the vision. Talking about the area, and I mentioned we did some hiking there, on the trail that you have. And I know right before we started recording, you mentioned maybe adding on to that trail. Um, are there any other trails or activities you all plan on having there? And maybe, because we just stayed overnight, it was just a very serendipitous moment that we found that spot and got it. So maybe there's something going on right now. If I remember correctly, when we stayed there, there was some kind of maybe mountain bike expedition that was going
yeah.
on near the property, and I think we even saw a couple of people out biking the morning right as we were cooking breakfast before we left.
Yeah, actually, one thing I should do is just sort of orient folks that are listening. Like, so we're in Western North Carolina, and we're really situated like 35 minutes south of Asheville, which a lot of people know, about 15 minutes south of Hendersonville, right next to Saluda and Flat Rock, and kind of at the back entrance of DuPont State Forest. So a lot of folks know DuPont. It's a world-class, waterfalls, mountain biking, hiking, really gorgeous destination, rivers and trails. I think they have 100 something miles of trail in DuPont. So, but we're also been really fortunate, and we kind of did this intentionally. Ride Rock Creek, which is a new bike park, is really just up the road from us, and so it's a
Right.
world-class mountain bike destination from the folks that did Ride Canuga, which is up in Hendersonville. And we decided to really lean into the mountain biking. One, because I love mountain biking, and two, mountain biking tourism is just huge in Western North Carolina. Folks are coming from hundreds, if not thousands of miles away to ride bikes in Western North Carolina. So we actually paid a professional trail builder to build a small little network of trails to start with on our property. So we have almost a mile of green and blue single track kind of flowy trails on the property, and then we have the little hiking trail to the waterfall. But we have 38 acres, and there's a ton of potential. And one thing I love doing is building trail and envisioning trail and just walking the woods. And so I've walked the woods a lot in the winter and sort of thought about additional trail and where we'd want to go. And so there's a lot of potential. If we can get to the top of our property, which we can, there's a nice little route, that gets you to the top. And then you could have maybe 400 feet of elevation coming off the top of the property, looking at sort of some downhill mountain bike trails, but also some really cool hiking trails. And, one thing that I am really interested to do is sort of build some more backcountry type spots. I mentioned to you of like, there's folks that want all kind of experiences. Some folks want to drive right up to a fancy treehouse, but some folks want to hike their backpack up in the woods. And so maybe putting some spots at the top of the property, which you're never going to be able to drive up there, but you could hike or ride your bike, and just offering that kind of experience to folks. So yeah, there's a ton of potential for more mountain biking trails, hiking trails. We've talked about disc golf. We're looking at adding a sauna. So yeah, kind of we're really just kind of peeling the layers of the onion back to get to the cool stuff. And the advantage of that is, instead of having this grand master plan that we were really rigidly stuck to, we've sort of started small. We went through this first phase of camping and open air cabins. And then we've asked folks like, hey, what do you like? What do you want more of? What's popular? The cabins have been more popular than the tent camping. So we originally thought about adding a lot more tent camping, and now we're like, let's add more, more cabin type structure, because that's what people seem to enjoy the most. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, and love your feedback, love your listeners' feedback. We're here to offer folks what people want.
Yeah, no, that's great. And those are all awesome things. I have to admit that, when we went on, walked around the property, we got up, we followed the road, I think pretty much up till where it ends. And I remember, convincing Athena and the boys, I was like, I think there's a trail right here. And so we hiked a little bit out there, and there was not a trail. But it looks like you can, from the road, it looks like you can almost get to the top, and I'm like, guys, we get up there, maybe we'll get us a really nice view. And
Yeah.
yeah, we ran into some obstacles, light obstacles that I would have carried on. I'm throwing everybody under the bus right now. Like that's
Yeah.
but they were like, no, let's turn back around. I was like, okay, you're right. Let's turn back around.
The
And
top of the property is awesome. It's just kind of steep, but there's some big boulders. There's an old moonshine still up there. That above that waterfall, it gets like big boulders and, almost like, sliding steep rock on the creek. And so a lot of cool places to explore that we want to sort of offer up to folks in the future.
yeah, no, that's great. And like you said, there's so much opportunity up there. It's like, what do you decide to work on first? That's
Yeah.
that would be one of my many things in my head, like what to work on, what
Yeah,
to
I have a huge list of projects, and it's just time. It's like, what do you have time to do? And also like, what's the um, most important thing? I really want to like just go out in the woods and build trail, but I'm like, maybe people want a nice place to go to the bathroom before they have more mountain bike trails. So we're working on all of it.
So when you mentioned some of these locations, are you partnering or collaborating with like, area businesses to get things out there, or is this just
Yeah,
kind
and
of
we've really enjoyed our partnership with Ride Rock Creek. I mentioned the bike park. They're new and we're new, and they offer a really exceptional experience. And what they've done in their, they've been open a little over a year. They went from just a rough piece of property to world-class mountain bike trails, and they hosted the Collegiate National Championship and the World National or the U.S. National Championship for mountain biking this year. So really big deal coming right to our backyard. And so we've benefited from that because, during those events, you're getting hundreds, if not thousands of riders and spectators coming, and we offer a really nice experience right down the road. So, and they have offered up as, one of their partners for places to stay for those events. We've also partnered with, the Gorge and Green River Adventures. They're really awesome experiences right in Saluda. So if you're not familiar, Saluda is the cutest, quaintest little town you've ever seen. It's like 10 minutes away. No stoplights. It has two legit general stores where you can buy a fishing pole, you can buy ice cream, you can buy a bolt for your broken lawnmower, and you can buy fresh vegetables, like the classic old general store in Saluda. But in Saluda is also really kind of a hub outdoor adventure. They have Green River Adventures, which offers guided paddle trips on the Green River, which is a world-class famous kayak destination. And it has something for everybody. The bottom, which is called the lower green, is sort of class one too. And it's beginner friendly, tube friendly. People kind of learning to kayak and canoe on the Green River. And the upper part of the Green River is class three. So, like stepping it up in your kayak. And then the middle section is called the Narrows, and it's world class five whitewater. It hosts the Green River Narrows race, which is, some of the best kayakers in the world come the first weekend in November and race down this class five section of river. And it's to me, it's called the greatest show in sports. And I couldn't agree more. It's one of the funnest weekends of the year to watch. And that's all right down the road. Green River Adventures offers experiences on all of those sections, as well as guided waterfall hikes. And the Gorge is a world-class zip line company just down the road too. So, one of the best zip line experiences around offered by the Gorge. And it's they're great partners, but it's also really great because we have so many cool things for people to do right out of our back door. And that's really why we called ourselves a base camp, because we're like, all right, come here, hike, ride your bike on our property, but during the day, go zip lining, go mountain biking at Rock Creek, go paddling at Green River Adventures, go hiking in DuPont. The options are endless for stuff to do in the area.
Yeah, and that was when we went in the fall. That was one of my ideas when found you online looking for a place to stay. My sister lives in Atlanta. I live in Knoxville. We're driving to Columbia. It was a good kind of middle ground, like a place where we
Yeah.
both could stop. I think she had to detour just a hair, to get there. And she has a boss and he works out of Asheville, and he mentioned DuPont. He's like, oh, try to find a place near DuPont because if you have time, you can hike. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where the focal point started. And then we kind of spread out to look at places. And when I found you guys, your website, your all's website does a great job, not just describing yourself, but the area. And that's when I found out. I was like, my goodness, there's so much to do here. And in my head, base camp, I was like, that's a perfect name because of what you just said. I was
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
it's close enough to where Max and I could just take a weekend. We wouldn't have to take like a whole week, but we could stay there a couple of nights and then explore the whole area. If Max didn't want to go, I could bring Ashley or even my sister and even my other sister who lives in Columbia. We could all
Yeah.
drive out together and have like a family event there. So
Yeah.
I
It's
was like,
nice.
yeah, I was like, let's test the waters. Let's take a look at it. But yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great because it's so convenient. I mean, we're 35 minutes from Asheville. We're probably 35 minutes from Greenville. We're, a few hours from Atlanta, a couple hours from Charlotte. Not even, maybe an hour and a half from Charlotte. So yeah, really close to a lot of population centers. And then just down the road from DuPont. So DuPont is a destination that attracts, I think, over 1 million visitors a year. It's become extremely popular. They filmed Last of the Mohicans there. They filmed some of the Hunger Games there. Like the waterfalls are, really famous. And it's an interesting story because DuPont was supposed to be a Cliffs high-end luxury development. And so this was probably 20 something years ago. If you're familiar with the Cliffs development, they were going to come in and, divvy it up and develop the whole thing. And there was an outcry of the community because folks knew what a great natural, destination this was, and that it should be protected. And so there was this huge outcry and uproar from, this grassroots upwelling and folks demanding action from their leaders. And very interesting, successful story in that they got the state of North Carolina to condemn the property from the developer and buy it and turn it into what it is now, which is a state park. So really successful sort of grassroots conservation effort. And, looking back now, it's really hard to envision that place as a luxury development, knowing what we would have lost, which is access to these trails and waterfalls and beautiful rock outcroppings. And yeah, so cool story. And we're lucky to be right there at the back of DuPont. So the negative to the 1 million visitors a year is you have 1 million visitors here. but we're at the back entrance receives a lot less visitors. We're at like the Fawn Lake entrance. And so that's a really good secret to enter in that way. You got the lakes right there and you can access all the same stuff without quite as many visitors competing for parking spaces.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and there, yeah, getting in. I mean, getting in for at least for us, it was a really easy drive. The only problem, of course, there's a lot of traffic, around Asheville,
Oh yeah.
not just because of visitors, but also some of the construction that's going on with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
interstate over there as
They're
well.
gonna they're gonna finish that in like 50 years. So we'll be good to go.
When when I lived in Chattanooga, we always joked, there was always something going on I-75, and so it was
Yeah.
a 50-year project. So talking about, the DuPont, and then but also going back to the Green River, the town you're talking about, we drove through. There was a coffee shop there, I think, right by the general store. Unless this is a completely different town altogether, but I do remember seeing the outfitter,
Yeah.
and Max and I this past summer went to New River up in West Virginia, and that's something he fell in love with. He couldn't do the high, I was gonna say high class. It's the that sounds like something else altogether. But as far as the harder side, the harder classes, he's too young to do. So we got a 2-person kayak and went down with a company, I believe Ace, and had a blast with them. Had a really good
Yeah.
time. And so when we saw that about Green River, that's kind of something he and I kind of said to ourselves, and I think we've mentioned to Athena saying, "Hey, this is cool." And I think Athena saw the zip line. I remember her talking about that, but that's awesome.
Is that
That's
is that sorry, is that motor? That's pretty loud. Is that bothering you?
Oh, I don't even hear it. I don't even
Oh,
hear
really?
the
Okay,
motor.
cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you. I thought that
No,
was
that's
really
cool.
loud.
I heard a couple of people talking a moment ago, but I don't even know if it fully picked up. But with all the plumbing I've been doing under the house, maybe those voices were just in my head. It's,
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
but
Sorry to interrupt you.
oh no, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, that's a place we definitely are. Max and I have kind of penciled in for the summer for us to kind of go back there and really get into the water and check it out. So, but talking about family and the fact that I brought family out there, really, you guys, Hartwell, the operation y'all have got set up is really a family affair. I mean, I think everyone's kind of involved with it. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's funny, because it was all sort of by accident. Like me and my wife said, we wanted to kind of start something and build something, and so we got going on some ideas, and then my father-in-law, had this property, and so me and my father-in-law actually bought it from his sisters, and then we became partners, and so we're sort of 50-50 partners in the endeavor, and that's been really fun and interesting. Like he's a great partner though, because like he knows how to fix excavators, and he's got a tractor, and he's also super laid back. He's like, whatever you want to do, however it'll work. But yeah, I mean, when you're just starting out, you kind of gotta gotta do everything, and learn how to do everything, or lean on your family and friends. So, I've had my little buddy comes out there. I got a 5-year-old. He comes out there and helps me all the time. Helps me, like slows me down and gets in the way. But he's super cute and he loves riding bikes out there. He's become a really good bike rider, like ripping those trails. My daughter comes out and I pay her $5 a cabin to clean when she's there. So she's our part-time cabin cleaner. She relocates plants when we build trails and roads. And my wife's been super helpful. And then family and friends we've really leaned on. So yeah, like any given weekend, we're sort of all out there doing projects, working on stuff. And that's been really fun. I've actually really enjoyed that piece of the puzzle, and like working with my father-in-law has been, some people might say that's crazy, but like it's been fun. Like we just go out there and hang out and play around in the woods, and people are like, is this fun? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you like playing around the woods and building fires and, cutting stuff down and, making trails, and like, I love all that kind of stuff. So it's been really fun for me. And I've enjoyed getting to spend time with all those folks.
Well, that's awesome. And tell your daughter she does a great job cleaning up because it was
Cool.
spotless. And we tried to leave it as spotless as possible when we left there. So that's Henry got his
Yeah,
first lesson in leave no trace. So that
cool.
was
And
um
and the other really cool piece is, this is a family property that's been in their family for 70 years or something. And they were the sisters, nobody could decide what to do with it. So, and they're four sisters, there's five siblings. And so they were going to sell it. And there was a lot of heartburn in the family about losing this piece of property that they'd all spent so much time on. And so we were able to buy it, sort of save it. And that was really cool to kind of keep the property in the family.
that's incredible. That's that no, that is incredible to come in and do that. And it's touched on a little bit on the website, and anyone who's watching this on YouTube or listening, where you listen, definitely check out the site, and we'll have that in the show notes, and we can kind of touch on that at the end here. Because it does kind of tell that story and talks about how everybody's involved. It also talks about a little bit of the work that you do outside of base camp, and you mentioned it at the beginning, the French Broad, chat us up about that and kind of the initiatives that are going on there.
Yeah, so my day job, in between, running the campground and learning how to do marketing and bookkeeping, which I didn't know anything about, is work. I work for Mountain True as the French Broad River Keeper. So that really involves sort of like water quality monitoring, looking at pollution problems, trying to figure out the sources of those problems, advocating for solutions. Our big issues are, improving water quality from sewer, septic, animal ag, construction runoff, and so this really fit right in that, and it was a good fit because this is such a good environmental project. Instead of this being sold and going to a developer who, you know, put a bunch of houses on it or whatever, we've protected it. We've cut, very few trees down. We've kept it intact. We've removed invasive species. Right now, it's all runoff, solar power. Our cold plunge, which we've added, just runs right out of the creek, and so it's been it really fits right in with the other work that I was doing, and yeah, and I felt good about saving the property and saving, those cabins were originally built by my father-in-law and his father. So it's cool that we were sort of able to revitalize those and keep those. Bill's cabin, so his dad was named Bill, and so we, named the first cabin down after his dad. Uh, yeah, it's cool to revitalize that old family history. And the corn crib, which is sort of the second cabin as you go up, was the old corn storage barn for the original homestead that was on the property. And
Oh wow.
it was, where they grow corn in the what used to be the open fields. A lot of that was all open fields about, 70 years ago. And they'd grow corn stored in the corn barn, and they had the house right there where Bill's cabin was. So yeah, cool history, and cool to, kind of keep it in the family and save it, but also open it up for the public so they can enjoy the beautiful piece of property that it is.
Yeah, no, that's great. That is, that's just incredible. And when again, y'all have done such a great job, keeping that up, and the upkeep there is just nice. And seeing the before, I believe there were some before and after photos there on Instagram. Seeing that, it was like just really neat. And I love how the setup, at least where we stayed, it looks like you're walking into a cabin. You're walking down from where you park. You got the door. You open up the door, and then you see the whole setup. It's truly a three walls, and it's very, very, very nice. So Hartwell, if anyone's looking to book or wants to learn more, where are the best places that they should go online?
Yeah, we got a website, so coldspringbasecamp.com, and then we're on Instagram at Cold Spring Basecamp. And so, book on the website. You can read about the cabins. You can kind of look at all the adventures in the area, things to do, and then, we try to be as active as we can on Instagram, kind of letting you know what we're working on and what the improvements are. And yeah, so check us out there, and we'd love to, host you. As we're recording this, it's January, so not a lot of people are necessarily thinking about camping trip, but I know in January I actually think about camping trips a lot because I'm like jonesing to get out of the house. I'm planning those next adventures. Looking forward to some of those warm, maybe early spring days where you can get out. And we are looking at putting in a wood burning stove in one of the cabins, so we'll kind of have some opportunities for you to stay warm out there if you want to come out in the winter. We actually
Well,
had a surprisingly busy December, folks coming out and, just enjoying camping in the colder weather, which I think is nice, get a good sleeping bag and enjoy it.
well, when we stayed, it was, it was unseasonably warm, or at least in my mind, it was. We didn't even really, I mean, we had the fire, because we wanted a campfire, but it was not needed at all. And I think, and you kind of summed it up there, I'm the same way. I've got to start thinking now about what I'm doing in the spring
Yeah.
as far as hiking and if I'm camping, if it's going to be a trip, I've got to plan out in advance. And then also I think Valentine's Day, that would be a great little couples getaway place spot as well. I think that's a really good location, and you've got so much to choose from, kind of like what we talked about. Anywhere from like wanting to go to a city like Asheville or just getting out and really exploring nature. It's just
Yeah.
awesome opportunities. So one thing I don't recall, and maybe it's in my notes somewhere, but where did you all come up with Cold Springs Base Camp? Where'd the name come from?
So the little creek through there is called Cold Spring.
Ah,
Um,
well,
you
there
know,
you
we yeah, we did a lot of like, debating and brainstorming names, and we were like, what about just calling it the creek? And
Yeah,
so and then
it's a
the
cool name.
Yeah, and the cabin sort of I mentioned Bill's cabin in the corn crib. The third cabin is called Tila Spring, and my wife is named Tila. Um,
Oh, okay.
but there's a spring right next to that.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad named that spring after her, when she was born. And so that spring kind of comes down the side of that cabin. So that made sense there too. And
Well, and I
so
was
we'll
going to ask because that's the cabin we stayed at, so that's where we were. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
I mean,
nice.
don't tell anybody except for everybody listening, but that is actually my favorite because it is the most remote. I mean, you're
Hmm.
you sit up there and you're just surrounded by woods and you can't see any other folks. It's really private up there. You got you got the spring and then the creek next to you. And
Hmm.
yeah, I like that spot for sure. I like them all, but that's a good one.
And that was fast access to the trail as well. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
right across the road there. And when we came in, we saw people, and but we really didn't hear them throughout the day until we saw um, that was them biking. We saw them biking on the trails that you mentioned. The next day.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Artwell, again, I'll have everything posted on there. Thank you for taking the
Yeah.
time.
Thank you.
Man,
I really appreciate it. It's been
you're out
fun.
in the Keys, so I'm gonna let you get back out there and do it. So
Yeah. Yeah. There's
I
warm
appreciate
things
it.
to do down here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Nice chatting with you.
All right, absolutely. All right, I want to thank Hartwell again for coming on. Definitely check out Cold Springs Base Camp. I think right now it's winter. I mean, yeah.
Probably not the. I mean, you could do it now.
Oh, absolutely, you could do it now, especially now that.
Free wall, so
Yeah.
it'd be cold.
Yes,
No.
but also like we talked about in the episode, just thinking about planning ahead as well. We probably will start batching our dates in there so we can hit up Green River and do
yeah.
some kite. Yeah, there we go.
That was fun.
Yeah, do that and just kind of get a feel for the area. But again, spring breaks right around the corner. Valentine's Day, if you want to take your significant other out there, I think it'd be a great place. And again, a lot of area to cover, a lot of things to check out. Definitely highly recommend it. But I think that's it for this episode. Max, you want to sign us off?
What do I say? Dang it, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know what to say.
You can say bye.
Bye.
Oh
see
wait,
ya.
hold on. Actually, I just cut you. I cut you off. Be sure if you like this episode, be sure to like it. If you haven't followed yet, go ahead, sign up, follow along, check out previous episodes. If you haven't, leave a comment, leave a review. You can find us here wherever you're listening. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching us goof around right now on YouTube. All right. I think now we can sign off, right?
All right. See you next time on Price Points.
Oh, well, you're going to thank people for
Oh,
listening?
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.